What's going on, guys? JSGC here, and we're here for another Manchester City and football video for you guys to enjoy. So before I do crack on with today's video, make sure, like always, if you are enjoying the content, you want to help to support my channel, then do subscribe. We're pushing on 30,000 subscribers, now less than 2k subs away, so any help towards that would be much appreciated. Also, don't forget as well, social media links, they're in the description below and sliding across at the bottom of the screen if you want to go and follow me on my Twitter and Instagram. Email also in the description too if you want to hit me up for any sponsorships for any videos or any general business inquiries. TikTok link also in the description if you want to go and follow me on there. Leave a thumbs up if you do enjoy this video. Most importantly, do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So today we're going to be speaking about what is breaking news in the footballing world around Europe right now, and that once more is the resurgence and birth once more of the European Super League. Now, if you cast your minds back, what was it, like a year and a half, 2 years ago, I did a very passionate video about the European Super League, about the implications it would have on the local community, the implications that it would have on Manchester City and on the footballing world, and also, in particular, the history surrounding football here in England. Now, England has one of, if not the very best structure of football in the world. There isn't, I can't think of any country out there that has football as passionate and as big as what it is here in England, and what football means to the clubs around the country, because there are so many football clubs. I find it astounding. If you head over to my other channel, JSGC Football, I speak a lot on there, and I go and do vlogs in the National League, and I've visited grounds, and I'm going to be visiting grounds where they're going to be pulling in crowds of between 10 and 20,000 people for a football match. In the fifth tier of English football, it's absolutely remarkable. There is no other country like it in the world. And to me, the European Super League eradicates that away from English football. So first and foremost, my stance from that video right through to now has not changed. I think the European Super League is a bad idea. However, I want to speak more about the European Super League, and in particular about Manchester City and a possible way forward. Now, I don't think this is a coincidence. I don't think that news of Manchester United potentially picking up a Qatari owner or Qatari investment at the time that Manchester City have been breached or charged with breaches of financial fair play lasting over the last decade or so, I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think the timing of this European Super League is a coincidence either. We've always known that Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus, they're looking for more investment in their team. They're looking for more investment into the local economy and for football around them, because at the moment there aren't people speaking about La Liga, there aren't people speaking about Juventus, and quite frankly there are Premier League clubs who aren't in Europe that financially with some of these clubs can compete with them, and the European clubs, the elite clubs, don't think that that is right. And so their solution to this is the Champions League is out, and in comes the new European Super League. Now, the initial proposals that I had, the big problem I had was this competition was set up for big, large clubs only. Now, they've apparently had a good look at it. They're going to expand the league, and they're going to make it possible that other clubs can be, I presume, promoted, relegated, moving from one division to another, much like the European structure of what you've got right now, apart from it'd be done in a league format. So it would be the European Super League being the main league, then you would end up having the second division, which would be like what you've got with the Europa League, and then the third division would knock down and it'd end up becoming the Europa Conference League is what it is now. So it's a complete reform of the European football structure in a way to try and get more competitive games for the big European clubs, so they're getting paid more money, because the more big games that they have, the more eyes, the more people are watching, the more likely they are to get lucrative sponsor deals. So financially for these big clubs it makes sense. However, I've said this right from the off, the biggest problem I have is not so much what it brings to the big clubs, but more what it does for the other clubs that are looking up at these big clubs because they cannot compete. There aren't going to be people out there who are going to say to themselves, I'd rather watch, for example, Real Madrid taking on PSG, for example. There's going to be people in a worldwide audience would rather watch that than Everton take on Southampton in the Premier League, for example. And so that, where's all the money, where's all the sponsors going to go to? They're going to go to them big games. Now, don't start confusing it with the impact it's going to have on the domestic leagues. Domestic leagues right now aren't being spoken about. They're not going to be touched. It remains to be seen as to whether qualification for your domestic leagues is going to get you into the European Super League. If it is just going to be a complete restructure and a bit more control to the football clubs and putting in an independent, fair and unbiased governing body, which is what we've currently got with the cartel at UEFA, then I'm all for that. I think that's a good idea. A complete restructure. You get rid of one competition, you replace it with another that's fairer for everybody, that allows everybody the opportunity through their domestic leagues to get into this Super League. Now, I don't have a problem with that at all. What I do have a problem with, though, is if it isn't through qualification in your domestic leagues, in your domestic cups, because you've had domestic success, then you deserve to be playing in the biggest competitions next season. My problem I have is if we have another situation like Leicester, who, for example, might not be the biggest of clubs and might not be in the European Super League right from the off, if they end up having a brilliant season like they had back in 2016 and they end up winning the Premier League, would they the season after be going into the European Super League? And if the answer is yes, then I think it's worthwhile sitting down and having a listen to what the European Super League's proposals are, because at the end of the day, the Champions League is going to go through reforms as well. I think it's 2024, 2025. They're going to be locking in a couple of the elite teams who are always going to be based in the Champions League, so they're always going to have that income regardless of how they perform in the domestic leagues. Now, the big problem we've got here from England in the Premier League is they've had so much power and so much say on the Super League. They've said that any English club that is to join, because originally I think we had all 6 big Premier League teams join, and then all 6 through backlash all left and walked away. They said that there's going to be sanctions for these clubs to join the Super League as a way to try and keep them in the Premier League. There's no implications on English football, and you'd end up staying with UEFA. Now, what's so interesting is what's happened with Manchester City and these Premier League charges, because whilst Man City's bitter taste has always been towards UEFA, it's always been there, and it's never left. With the Premier League, Manchester City, there's never really been too much anguish and aggression towards the Premier League, right up until the other day, where all of a sudden charges come in and Manchester City fans and the club are left not in limbo, but left upset by the charges that they don't believe should be in place in the first place with financial fair play, and they're also upset because they feel like there's been no wrongdoing, which we're awaiting the outcome of, and the club's left in limbo about what's going to happen from now until the end of the season. They don't know what's going to happen next season, if there's to be sanctions, if they're found guilty or not. They don't know what the implications are if Manchester City are found innocent, how it's going to be banned for business, and potentially an impact on the squad, unsettling of the players, of the coaching staff, of the employees at Manchester City, as well as any potential employees coming into the club as well, including that of possible incoming transfers, has a massive implication on the club. And what the Premier League have done, in my opinion, is put a big wedge between Manchester City and everybody else. Manchester City, in my opinion right now, would be the only English team that would be serious about sitting down and speaking with Barcelona, Real Madrid and Juventus. They're the 3 clubs pushing the European Super League. I think right now, with the position Manchester City are in, I think Manchester City would sit down with them and talk numbers to see what it would see what would happen to make it happen, because the Premier League and the FA, they could put sanctions onto Manchester City with the European Super League, but if we're already facing sanctions for the Premier League, the minds have already been made up and City, without a fair trial, are found guilty, which is what all the other footballing fans have said, then Manchester City, to me anyway, have every right to at least sit down, talk and listen and see what the proposals are to potentially join the European Super League. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm in favour of that, because I'd have to see what's been put into place and, as I said, what the impact would be on English football. There's going to be other Manchester City fans and other fans from other clubs that are going to sit there and say, well, no fans are supporting Manchester City. It very much feels like Manchester City against everybody else. We can eradicate this problem through joining this European Super League instead. Guarantees the money and income coming into Manchester City. It guarantees that City can have a look at another governing body outside of that of UEFA or the Premier League, and they're very much making Manchester City right now feel like they are outsiders, that, everything's been put in place by prestigious Premier League and European clubs to try and keep Manchester City out. Now, the other problem we have with the European Super League is we've had our problems with La Liga in the past, with Real Madrid and Barcelona when it comes to football politics as well. So we'll see what potentially happens with regards to that. Right now, we've got no word from Manchester City or any English club about joining the European Super League. I imagine Manchester City won't be saying anything until they find out what the punishment is to be for these potential charges with the Premier League, if anything at all, of course. And so they'll wait to see what happens there. I would say if the Premier League end up dropping the case, or Manchester City end up being happy with the sanctions that have been put in place, if they are to be found guilty or not, then I can see Manchester City just carrying on with the status quo as to not upset the fans over the backlash. However, if things go south and the Premier League say big points deduction or to be chucked out of the league or something, I can see Manchester City seriously contemplating the European Super League. So in the comments below, I'd love to know your thoughts of that. Now, I could probably sit here for a good hour or two and speak about the European Super League to try and squeeze it into a watchable video for you guys. Just try to limit it down to the key important points. But my final point, if worst case scenario does happen and City are to be sanctioned by the Premier League, City aren't happy with the sanctions, they can't do anything about it, and Manchester City do sit down with these prestigious European teams and join the European Super League and follow the money, then which other clubs would join Manchester City? It's very much a case of whichever other Premier League club the Premier League choose to go and pursue next in terms of trying to sanction teams. Chelsea apparently on the radar. I'm sure Newcastle won't be far behind either. And if you was to say to these Premier League clubs, here's a big tub of money and these problems go away and you could join the Super League instead, I think they'd seriously consider that. So this case between City and the Premier League needs to be handled very, very carefully, because you could see something that I've not seen in my lifetime. I don't think it's been seen in football ever. We could see the biggest split of teams away from one association to another. So could be a massive, massive development. I don't think it's a coincidence that the timings of this with City and the Premier League and the European Super League and Barcelona, Real Madrid and Juventus, there's definitely something happening, and I'm sure Manchester City will be willing to sit down and have a listen whilst things are the way they are. And I'd love to know the City fans' thoughts of this in particular. I'm sure all the other fans will be very much against it, but City fans in particular, what are your thoughts of it? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm not a fan of it myself. However, if City are forced into a corner, then what on earth do you expect? Baffled me. So this case needs to be handled very, very carefully. I'm sure if Man City can use this as ammo against the Premier League, I'm sure they will. So I'm sure this isn't the last that we've heard of things. This has been one of the most interesting weeks for football politics in a good year or two. And of course, it can't, when there's finances concerned, it has to involve Manchester City. So, topic of conversation. I really was hoping for a quiet week where I can just take it easy and chill out from the daily transfer updates. Anything but there we go. Would we have it any other way? Don't think I would. So thank you everybody for watching, much appreciated. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe as well if you're new around here. Press that red button, press the bell and put your push notifications on. Leave a thumbs up as well, that'd be much appreciated. 100 likes is the aim. Social media links, they're in the description below and sliding across at the bottom of the screen if you want to go and follow me on my Twitter and Instagram. Email also in the description too if you want to hit me up for any sponsorships for any videos or any general business inquiries. Also don't forget TikTok link in the description if you want to go and follow me on there. And I'll see you all again real soon for the next Manchester City video. So I've been JSGC. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope everyone is safe and well. Peace. Ciao for now.